Please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback helps make the content better. She dodged my hug in the kitchen like it was a low branch. Don't start, Laura said, sliding past me to the fridge. I'm meeting the girls tonight. I already told you. You told me 3 minutes ago, I answered, leaning on the counter. I was thinking dinner. Just us. We could actually talk. She checked her phone. I can't cancel on them. It'd be rude. Ruder than blowing off your husband on a Thursday. She rolled her eyes. Mike, it's just a night out. Don't make it a thing. I didn't push. She grabbed a sparkling water, kissed the air somewhere near my cheek, and left me with a quiet house that used to feel like home. I stood there, wondering when a hug started requiring a sign-up sheet. If I'd seen where it was going, I would have skipped the polite phase and moved right to the part where I stop offering chances. I ordered takeout, ate in the living room, and watched the front door like it owed me money. Laura came back near midnight, smelling like a scented shop. She was cheerful with that careful, practiced cheerfulness you use for a neighbor you don't plan to see again. Fun night? I asked. Home, she said, slipping off her boots. You didn't have to wait up. I didn't. I fell asleep to the ceiling fan. It gives better conversation lately. She paused. I'm tired, Mike. Me too, I said, of being rescheduled. She shrugged that away and disappeared down the hall. The door closed. Not slammed. Closed, like a lock quietly sliding in someone's head. The next morning, I laid it out over coffee. Let's block a Saturday. Hike, early lunch, actually sit across from each other like we're married. Laura stirred creamer into her mug and didn't look up. This weekend, I told Mom we'd help with the garage. I didn't agree to that, I replied. And I'm not spending another Saturday in your parents' attic so your dad can reminisce about a lawnmower from 1992. She laughed short. He likes you. You can survive a few hours. I can survive anything. That's not the point. I set my cup down. I want time with my wife. This week. She finally met my eyes. Why are you so intense about this lately? Because lately you treat me like a roommate who forgets to label his leftovers. Don't be dramatic. Then don't be distant. I let the silence sit, heavy and useful. Pick a day. She slipped her mug into the sink like she was putting a file back in the cabinet. I'll check my calendar. That was the first initiative. I sent a message to her family group chat. Polite, clear. Won't make the garage weekend. Catch you another time. No drama, just new terms. Laura saw it 5 minutes later and blinked at me like I'd unplugged her favorite lamp. You could have told me, she said. I just did. She didn't argue. She didn't agree either. That was the new normal, a soft wall you keep walking into until your forehead learns. At work, my foreman Nate watched me push bolts into a bin like they'd insulted me. You look like a man being talked to through a closed door, he said, dropping into the chair across from mine. Accurate. You two fighting? We're not fighting, I said. She's delegating me to the background. He snorted. Background men stopped buying flowers. They stopped paying for the soundtrack. I drove home thinking about that. When the house was empty again, I opened my laptop and booked a weekend down by the coast in early June. 2 nights, tiny place above a diner, ocean within walking distance. I put the confirmation on the fridge with a magnet. Laura walked in at 7 and glanced at it. What's this? Us, I said. Remember us? We're trying that again. She scanned the dates. I might have Pilates. Pilates can stretch without you. Mike, you can't just set trips without talking to me. I just did. I kept my tone even. This is me changing something instead of complaining about it. She crossed her arms. You're guilt booking me. No, I'm giving us a chance. I tapped the magnet. Call it a reset. She didn't rip the paper down. That passed for a win. 2 nights later, I made a reservation at Russo's, the place with red booths and decent calamari. I told her the time, texted her the address, put on a clean shirt. At 6:30, I was in a booth, looking at the door. At 7, the host stopped asking if she was coming, with the same sweet pity you give a stray dog. At 7:10, I texted, everything okay? 3 dots. No reply. The waiter dropped a water, then another. I canceled the order and drove home on an empty stomach and a full conclusion. Laura was on the couch in sweats, watching a show on her laptop. You didn't go? She asked, glancing up. I did go. Table for 2. Should have asked for the table for 1 that doesn't mind being lied to. She frowned. I never confirmed. You said you'd try. I got busy. She yawned. Why are you making me feel bad for being tired? I'm not making you feel anything. I'm noticing that you skipped our night to curl up with a true crime story. She closed the laptop. You're overreacting again. That word had become her screwdriver. Loosen any bolt. Everything falls apart. Not her fault. I didn't answer. I went to the office, opened a shared spreadsheet labeled House Budget, and split every joint category. Rent, utilities, groceries. 2 columns now, each with a number. I added a note. We pay our halves on the first. If someone's out late, that someone covers extras. Calm, boring math. Initiative number 2. The next morning, a paper bag sat by my keys. Inside, a cinnamon roll from the bakery near her work with a note. Sorry about last night. I'll try to do better. Love you. The midterm, small, sweet, affordable. When I came out, she was at the counter in a blazer. That was thoughtful, I said. I meant it, she replied. I know I've been distant. It's just stressful lately. Then let me in, I told her. Don't shut me out, and then hand me a pastry. She nodded. Too fast. I'll be home by 6 tonight. We'll see, I said. And thanks for breakfast. She smiled like she had closed a tab. At 6:50, she texted, running late. Don't wait. I didn't. I met Nate and Alicia from work at Charlie's Bar and Grill. Alicia pointed at my phone on the table. Everything good at home? Depends on who you ask, I said. Here's something, Nate cut in. Bring her to the crew picnic Saturday. Food, music, normal people. Low pressure. She's nice around others, right? She's present around others, I said. Sometimes that helps. Do it, Alicia said. Neutral ground. Saturday afternoon, I parked by the park pavilion. Laura was dressed like she was walking through a catalog. She even hooked her arm through mine at first. For the first hour, she smiled at stories, poured iced tea, played along. Then Alicia's boyfriend cracked. Mike's the steady one. You could set a clock by him. Laura smirked. Trust me, I've tried. He likes schedules more than people. People laughed. It wasn't cruel. It landed anyway. I let it sit, then used it. Good news, I told the group, raising my cup. The schedule is changing. If my wife has plans, I make mine. If I have plans, I keep them. I'm not waiting on anyone's maybe. Light chuckles. Nate lifted a thumb my way. Laura stared at me like I'd leaked a secret. On the way to the car, she hissed. What was that? A boundary, I replied, opening her door. Public, so it's clear. That was unnecessary. So is mocking me in front of strangers. But here we are. She slid in, silent. That night, she put a hand on my shoulder in bed and didn't flinch when I turned. I didn't turn. Not as payment for a cheap apology. Not anymore. Sunday morning, I made pancakes, left the stack on a plate, and went to my shop. Alone, with the sound of a sander, your brain stops negotiating with fantasy. By midweek, the coast trip was 4 days away. Laura hadn't mentioned it. I brought it up while we were both at the sink. Bag for 2 nights, I said. Bring a jacket. She reached past me for a towel. I don't know if I can take Friday. You can. You don't want to. Don't tell me what I want. Okay, I said. I want it. For both of us. She straightened. Fine. I'll go. Happy. Not yet, I told her. Happy comes after we actually show up. Friday morning, she left early. At 10:30, she texted, packed a few things. We'll meet you at home at 5. Neutral. Functional. I left work a little early, filled the tank, and put a cooler by the door. At 4:45, I was ready. At 5:10, I was pacing. At 5:20, a text, running late. Don't wait. I stared at the words. I waited anyway. At 6:30, I messaged, are you coming or not? Not, she replied. I'm exhausted and not in the mood to sit in a car for 3 hours. Copy, I answered. Thanks for the clarity. I canceled the reservation. No yelling. No 7-paragraph essay. I opened a new tab and searched for private investigators in our county. It took me 3 calls to find a guy who sounded like a dentist. Calm, methodical, boring. Perfect. He didn't ask for a speech. He asked for dates, routines, names. I gave him a schedule with blocks for where Laura said she was, where she actually had to be, and where there was fog. He took notes like he'd done this 100 times for people who thought they were special. You'll get a packet in a few days, he said. Photos, times, a summary. You want me to stop if it's nothing? If it's nothing, you won't have anything to do, I answered. Either way, I close a loop. For the next 3 days, I didn't chase. I went to work, paid my half of the bills, and stopped offering hugs that got dodged like traffic cones. Laura noticed the quiet. She tried the second softening on Tuesday night. Full court sweetness. I made your favorite pasta, she said, lighting a candle like a scene in a commercial. Let's reset, okay? I sat down. We already tried that. Twice. I know, she said, all soft vowels. I was wrong to skip the trip. Work got crazy. I went overboard with the girls. It's just a phase. A phase is spring allergies, I said. This is a pattern. She leaned forward. Then let me fix it. You don't fix a leak by complimenting the bucket, I replied. You fix the pipe. Do you want me or not? She threw back. I want a wife who shows up, I said. If that's you, show me. If it's not, stop telling me it is. She nodded like a manager ending a meeting. I'll do better. Start by being where you say you'll be, I told her, and not weaponizing tired. Her mouth tightened. Everything is a weapon to you lately. Only the things you swing, I said. She spooned pasta onto a plate for me, another for herself, and ate 3 bites in silence. Then she smiled, bright and hollow. We'll be okay. We'll be something, I said. Which thing is up to you? Thursday morning, the envelope arrived at my shop, thick and plain. The private investigator didn't add poetry. He added timestamps. Photos of Laura's car at a coffee shop on 8th when she told me she was at a salon across town. A man's arm in a jacket I recognized from Emily's barbecue pictures. A few days later, a photo of Laura and that same man stepping out of a townhouse near the river, not touching, but in step. Another day, a lunch at a place in Midtown. Name, address, time. I sat in the break room with the packet open. Nate walked in, stopped, and then sat without speaking. I asked a professional, I told him. He answered. Nate exhaled. You going nuclear? No, I said. I'm going clean. That afternoon, I left work early, stopped by a UPS store, scanned everything, and emailed the file to myself with a subject line I could look at later without shaking. Then I drove to the county office and filed the paperwork. No speeches, no announcements. Decision, signature, done. I called a moving service for the following week. A small truck for a few items that were mine before the marriage and a short-term storage unit. Another initiative. I wasn't waiting for the next skipped dinner. The next day, Laura texted at noon. All day with Emily shopping. Back late. I stared at the message for a second, then took a screenshot and sent it to Emily with a single line. Is this true? Emily and I weren't close. She's my wife's best friend, not mine. But we'd been around each other enough that I knew she was practical and had a voice like a school principal when she was angry. She wrote back fast. What? No. I'm at work. He told me he's on shift all day. What? I sent one photo. Laura and Emily's husband stepping out from the river townhouse. Timestamped. Then another, at the Midtown lunch. Nothing graphic. 2 people who had learned to walk side by side like they were practicing for a future they hadn't earned yet. Emily replied with 4 words I could feel through the screen. Give me 1 day. Take it, I wrote. Then I messaged Laura. Say hi to Emily's husband. 15 minutes later, keys rattled, and she came through the door so fast she left shopping bags on the porch. Emily's car pulled in right behind her, doors slamming like punctuation. Emily walked into our living room with a face that could sand wood. Laura froze, seeing her, then looked at me. What is this? Clarity, I said, standing. You told me you'd be with Emily all day. I checked. Emily held up her phone. Where were you? Laura's jaw moved, like a lie was fighting its way out. I met a friend for lunch. I didn't want Mike to worry. That friend, Emily said, voice flat, is my husband. Laura looked at me. That is not true. I picked up the folder from the coffee table and slid 2 photos across. She stared at them like pictures can sprout legs and walk away. Then she reached for emotion, the one she used when she got pulled over 5 over the limit and wanted the warning instead of the ticket. I'm sorry, she whispered. This is getting twisted. It isn't what it looks like. I'll let Emily tell you what it looks like, I said. Emily took a step closer. He told me he was working. You told me you were with me. Both lies. You think we're stupid? It was lunch. Laura shot back, heat returning. We talked. That's all. And the townhouse? I asked. She flinched. I stopped there to talk. Alone. I texted you I had a salon appointment because I knew you'd overreact. I didn't overreact, I said. I hired a boring man with a camera. He doesn't do emotions. He does timestamps. She tried again. Mike, please. You're blowing up our life over some pictures. Our life, I said, went quiet months ago. I'm just turning the lights on. She turned to Emily. Don't do this. You know me. We have years. Emily's voice went hard. I know you well enough to say this in front of him. Everyone is going to know by tonight. I'm done covering for you without even knowing I was covering for you. Laura looked back at me. You're both being cruel. No, I answered. We're being clear. Tears came. They always arrived late, like she'd called them from a block away. I messed up, she said. I was lonely. You were distant. I was busy asking you to show up, I said. And I was done negotiating with Fogg. She reached for my arm. I stepped back. Emily saw it and shook her head the way a nurse shakes her head when a patient tries to stand too soon. Where is he? Emily asked, meaning her husband. Not here, I said. He'll be wherever men go when they run out of explanations. You'll handle that your way. I will, she said, eyes still on Laura. And I'll handle the rest with our friends. They deserve to hear it from me. Laura's voice jumped an octave. You can't tell people. You'll destroy everything. You already did, Emily replied. I pointed to the hallway. Pack a bag. You're leaving tonight. Laura stared, like that wasn't in her menu. Where am I supposed to go? Not my question, I said. Not anymore. Mike, she tried softer. Please. We can fix this. I love you. I needed your respect more than your line, I answered. You chose something else. I'm choosing distance. She looked at Emily. You're taking his side? I'm taking the side with daylight, Emily said. Pick up your things. Laura glanced between us, calculating angles that weren't there anymore. Then she turned and walked down the hall. Drawers opened. Zippers. The noises of a life that thought it had time. While she packed, Emily and I sat in the living room. She stared at the carpet like it was a court transcript. I didn't want this, Mike, she said. Me neither. What are you going to do? It's done, I replied, nodding toward the folder. Paperwork went in this afternoon. She exhaled. Fast. Clarity makes you quick. She rubbed her thumb across her phone. I'm telling the group tonight. Not to ruin her. To set the record straight. Do what you need to do, I said. I'm out. Laura came back with a duffel. This is insane, she said, eyes wet. You're ending years over pictures. I'm ending years over disrespect, I replied. The pictures just save me time. She put her bag down, like weight would change gravity. I have nowhere to go. You have parents, I said, and a list of people who, by tomorrow, will know exactly why you need a couch. She glared. You're cold. I'm precise, I said. There's a difference. She grabbed her bag and went to the door. You'll regret this. I regret not doing it earlier, I told her. She left without slamming the door. She forgot the shopping bags on the porch. Emily stood, ran a hand through her hair, and looked older by 10 years. Thanks for showing me, she said. Thanks for walking in, I replied. She paused at the doorway. One day? That's what I asked for. I'm using it to decide if I give him one more conversation. That's your call. It is, she said. And it won't be kind. After she left, I gathered the shopping bags, set them by the trash, and texted the moving company to bump the pickup to Saturday morning. Then I slept for 8 hours like someone who didn't owe anyone an explanation in the morning. The next week was noise. Emily's husband tried campaign speeches. Emily shut the door. Friends texted me versions of, heard something, are you okay? I replied with, I'm fine, which was finally true. The crew at work noticed I was lighter. Nate clapped me on the back in the break room and said, you look like you finally took off a backpack full of wet towels. I returned it to the lost and found. I answered. Laura's messages started as paragraphs, then shrank to single lines. Can we talk? I'm sorry. It wasn't what you think. I didn't reply. The rules had changed. Access to me was now an earned privilege, and she'd spent it elsewhere. Her last text came on a Wednesday. I'm going to stay with my parents for a while. Please don't throw my things away. I sent a one-word response. Noted. Our friends, well, her friends, formed a tidy circle that didn't include her for a while. Emily didn't gloat. She just posted a photo of a latte with the caption, clean windows, clear view. People understood. That wasn't my battle. The settlement wrapped faster than anyone predicted. No courtroom scenes, no ceremonial speeches. You sign, you walk, you pay what you pay, and you get what you get. In my case, I kept what I brought in and most of what I built. She didn't have much leverage left without a story anyone believed. On move-out day, Mrs. Delgado from next door leaned on her rake and watched the truck. "You boys splitting the nest?" she called. "Streamlining," I answered. She nodded. "You'll be fine." "I know," I said, and I did. I took an apartment over a small auto shop on Maple, sunlight through big windows, quiet at night except the occasional compressor hiss below. I bought a used pickup, not to flex, just because it was mine and it worked. On Saturdays, I drove to the lake with a thermos and a sandwich. I fixed a neighbor's porch steps and refused cash. The guy brought over ribs the next day, and we sat on my stoop like kids who'd discovered chairs. The first month alone, I realized I was eating breakfast without checking if someone would be offended by the sound of a plate. That's when you know you were editing yourself too much. 3 months later, I was at a friend's backyard cookout when a woman named Dana asked where my wife was, because people ask basic questions when they don't know what they're stepping into. I said, "Somewhere else," and she nodded. She worked in logistics and talked about process like most people talk about TV. We started grabbing coffee after that. No fireworks, just easy conversations and calendars that matched what came out of our mouths. When we planned a hike, we went. When she said, "Text me when you get home," it meant she'd read it and answer, not file it under things to respond to when convenient. That's underrated. I ran into Alicia from work at the hardware store. She glanced at the boxes in my cart. "You nesting or escaping?" "Both," I said. "Good for you," she replied. "By the way, Emily's doing okay. Tough month, then better. She's got a spine." "She always did," I said. "You hear about Laura?" Alicia added carefully. "I don't need to," I answered. "Fair," she said. Then, because people are people, she told me anyway. She moved back to her hometown. People there think she's taking time to figure things out. "Time does its job," I said. It did. Without effort or announcements, life nodded. Work counted on me. Friends knew I'd show up, and Dana turned into someone who didn't require detective work to understand. Months later, Laura called from a number I didn't know. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was short. "I hope you're well." That was it. No hooks left. I deleted it and went back to sanding a shelf in my shop. Nate stuck his head in. "We still on for the game?" "Yup," I said. He looked at the smooth plank. "That'll hold." "It's designed to," I replied. The last time I saw Laura, in a grocery store parking lot, she was getting into a small sedan with out-of-state plates. She spotted me and froze for a second. I nodded once. She lifted a hand. No conversation. No performance. She slid into the car and left. Back home, I flipped the porch light on and grilled chicken while Dana balanced a paper plate on her knee. She teased my playlist, called it mechanic music, and I told her she could choose the next one if she passed the background check. We laughed. Not the brittle kind. The normal kind. People love myths about big payback and grand gestures. The truth is simpler. You draw a line, you enforce it, and the world adjusts. You don't need a soundtrack. You need a decision. Laura thought comfort was a resource you could borrow forever. She miscalculated. She lost the comfort, the circle that covered for her, and the man she assumed would keep paying for a version of her that didn't exist anymore. She moved back with her parents, and after that she moved out of my head. If she ever tells the story, I'm the cold one who walked. Fine, I'll be the cold one. Cold keeps shape. Warmth turns to fog, and fog hides problems. I prefer shape. When I closed our front door that day with Emily in the living room and the photos on the table, Laura said I'd regret it. Here's the truth I landed on, simple as a wrench. Regret is for people who ignore facts. I didn't ignore them. I put them in order, then I acted. The last message I sent her was also the last thing I said in person, and it still fits. Say hi to the man you risked everything for. He won't be around long. Comfort never is when you cut corners to get it. Me? I traded a silent house for a smaller one with laughter in it. I traded a schedule I begged someone to respect for a life where plans stick. I traded pleading for peace. That's not tragedy. That's maintenance. That's a man taking back the keys to his own place. And if there's one final sentence that closes it, it's this. I'm good. I kept my respect. The rest was clutter.